Are you tired of showing up and still somehow your content seems that it doesn't connect the way you want? You want your audience to feel something when they read your words and to see themselves in your message and think, this is exactly what I needed to hear. If this sounds like you are going to love today's conversation. Join us on a wonderful conversation with content marketing expert Naomi Rose, who helps entrepreneurs build content that consistently connects, not by being pushy or louder, but with authentic and intentional content that is aligned with who you are. Every month on this channel, I sit down with different experts to talk about strategies and mindset to grow your business and your personal brand as an introvert woman in business in a way that still feels aligned with your essence. So if that is you, make sure to subscribe to the channel and come back every month. And for today, let's join our conversation with Naomi Rose and have all the mindset shifts you need to create content that connects. Let's go. Thank you so much, Naomi, for being here. Tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you start, and what are you doing currently to help your people?
Thank you very much for having me, firstly. It's a real pleasure to have this conversation with you. I have been on quite a whirlwind of a journey, I'm not going to lie. It's definitely been an interesting one. My first journey into business was actually over 7 years ago now. So I used to work in corporate non-profit organizations, and I headed up like digital teams, marketing teams, content, brand, all of that kind of thing. Because when you work in digital, you tend to cover all of the topics because everybody needs something digital when it comes to that kind of thing. And my career kind of began back in the theatre because I'm a musician by trade. And I went into like helping organise events and getting into marketing that way. I kind of fell into it because of the nature of the job I had. So I'd go from working backstage to then working on websites. And because I kind of understood tech, I was the techiest person, and it was the era of when social media was on the rise. But when I started, social media wasn't a thing. But I was kind of going, oh, we need to be doing this. This is something that's going to change how we do marketing. So I was kind of setting up the first ever Facebook page because pages didn't exist, and getting them kind of like, I was back in the era of MySpace. That was the era I was in. And so it was really changing the landscape of that. And I went into kind of the rest of that, my career from that point onwards, went on to being like the first social media person into quite big organizations, then creating the first social media teams, then creating the first digital teams. So it was really like progressive in what we were doing. And often like the roles I was in the organizations I was worked for, we were very much leaders in our industry for what we were doing. So it was, I spent a lot of time talking, training people. Like the organizations were big. Everyone wanted a social media account. They had FOMO if they didn't have one, right? So it was my job to work out, one, whether they should have one. I was often the gatekeeper, and two, make sure that they were the right strategic point of view from the organization, because everything I did had to be in line with the key goals, values, and all of that kind of stuff. And I really loved doing my job. It wasn't that I didn't love doing it. I loved the people, but I was getting bored, and I wanted to do something more. So this is where I kind of like did something a little bit more maverick than I would probably do these days. But I decided that I wanted to do something I was really passionate about, rather than do that. Well, I call it the 9 to 5. It wasn't. The world of digital doesn't stop for anybody. So it's more like 7 till 10. Um, I'd often have conversations with the director on the phone at 10 o'clock to sort out the blog that went live 5 o'clock the next day. That was the reality of the world. But I just wanted to do something different. And I love the food and hospitality industry. I'd not really worked in it much. I'd done bar shifts back in the day before like the career began. And there was this opportunity that came up in my local town in this incredible building that was really sad, like it had lost its soul. And it was, I walked into it, at the time before it had been like an amusement arcade, it had been a nightclub. So there's nightclub grime, there was bright green walls. But actually underneath all of that, which I had absolutely no idea, It was a 1920s Art Deco building where electricity had first come into the town. It was just incredible. And I walked in there and I'm like, this would make a great cafe bar and it would be a great venue for music because I always wanted to own my own club. That was like one of my dreams. But I wanted to also bake. And it kind of snowballed from there, if I'm honest. It was kind of like one of those like, oh, that would be a nice kind of dream. And before I know it, I'd signed a lease, and then 2 months later we had actually opened. So it was quite a not run a business. I was not a professional baker. And it was just such a whirlwind of a journey. Like there was so much learning. I went in with that kind of complete, absolutely no knowledge. It was really hard to find out any information because obviously people in the hospitality industry, and this is how I saw it, although it's completely not true, because people are always putting their best face on and showing all of the things that go well. I didn't know who I could ask to get help with like building control, or like I didn't even know about building control. Like every conversation I had to learn something new because we were doing a full, this building had nothing in it. It had no kitchen. It didn't have like, it took 8 weeks to bring back the parquet flooring, which was such a beautiful feature. So it was complete kind of rookie knowledge. But it was an incredible space. By the time we finished, my team was absolutely amazing. They were just incredible. And I'm very much a collaborative worker. So when I opened, I thought it was going to be this lovely small little cafe bar, and it just went skyrocketed. So within the first 3 months, I then had 17 staff and I was turning multi six figures. It was just insane. It was a very different time. This was pre-COVID. And of course, then the pandemic hit and everything changed a little bit. And whatever strategy I had, because I was very much strategically focused, that was my kind of thing. And I understood customer behavior and understood the marketing side of it. There was no predictability. It completely had, your strategies were based on day by day. It was so disconcerting to be have to kind of like be so agile, so fleet of foot. So the 3-year plan I had, that was out the window. Like, you know, the busiest days of the week would suddenly become Tuesdays. There was no pattern. It was from a buyer consumer perspective, it was fascinating because their behaviors had changed significantly. What was a normal pattern was no longer a normal pattern. When I looked at the actual hard data of sales and like payments and people coming through the door, there was no, it was day and night. There was no consistency whatsoever from one week to the next. And it was just so fascinating. And that's where I actually started. And in the middle of the like the cost of living crisis, I crowdfunded a bakery because I really wanted a bakery. I hated sourdough, I'm not going to lie, but I knew people would want it. So I taught myself, along with my head baker. We spent 3 months working on our sourdough every day. It was painful. Like it was like there would be sad faces, fail again. Like that was the battle we had with it. But I was refusing to open it until one, we got the crowdfunding, and two, we got that actually right. And it was just such a brilliant campaign. Like I was completely overwhelmed, and I say brilliant, not being big-headed about what I did, but it was totally the community. They just got behind it like I couldn't believe. It was like this positive thing that we could do for the town that seemed really small to me, but they almost needed something. And it was just, we had over 300 people invest, which was absolutely amazing. And then after we'd opened the bakery, once we nailed the sourdough, which did take us like I say, a lot longer than I was happy with. I'm very grumpy about it. I now love sourdough, just to say we've been through the hump of that. We then I entered my team into Britain's Best Loaf Awards. Like these are the awards if you're a baker, without them knowing, because they would have been terrified. I'm like, we're going to go and learn. We're going to have a nice day out at the NEC in Birmingham. We're going to go and chat with other bakers, and we're going to have a fun day. It's a food event. What's not to love, right? And we ended up winning 3 months after opening. And this is coming from a business that were no qualifications on the wall apart from the legal ones that we actually needed. But we were home bakers. We weren't professionally trained. We couldn't do sourdough. Like that was a reality. And it was just such a, not only to reward my team that had worked so goddamn hard, but actually the community that had helped us get to that point. And that was that whole business was such a learning curve. Unfortunately, we got hit by the cost of living crisis. Like bakeries were just folding, like the energy costs. We had 3 deck ovens. I can't beat that kind of outgoings versus the incomings that we were having. So I made the decision to close in January of 23, which was devastating, of considering how much success we'd had the year before. But there was no other choice. I looked at all the options and I was absolutely devastated. But it's kind of led me to where I am now, because I've gone back to my roots in content marketing, because that whole experience of really understanding customer behaviors, seeing it from the audience perspective, that's what I see people struggling with so much now when it comes to their businesses, not being able to get the cut through on this noisy world that we're living in that seems to go even faster every single day. AI has just sped us up, right? But actually, what is the biggest selling point for any business owner is you. It's you, the person behind the business, the belief system, the values. And I often act as what I call the translator from what you actually want to sell to how you reach the people. Because even when I was working in the organizations before I opened my own business, it was all about taking really technical, heavy, boring data and turning it into something that people would actually want to get behind, which was sometimes hard to battle internally because they often felt like I was dumbing stuff down. I'd be like, no, this is the way we open the door for people. This is where we get the conversation started and bring them in with us on the journey in their language that they get, so they can feel empowered to take action. That's what we need to get to. So all of that stuff that I've learned, and I absolutely wish the cafe was still here. It was just, unfortunately, financially we couldn't do it. But I'm so glad I'm doing what I am doing now, because when I see people that really start creating content that's authentic to them, that's genuine, that uses their stories, you can see them becoming themselves. You can see them become confident. And actually, it's so rewarding to see that. So that's kind of a really long-winded way of saying how I got here now.
I love it how, in different ways, we are so aligned, because I went through a journey also of starting with a local business and then closing it, start online, and then close that, and then do what I do now. And you were talking about the person behind, and that's what I love so much about supporting women, creating essence aligned personal brands, because it's all about the connection, right? And today we are here to talk about creating content that connects. But connection, it can seem different from person to person, right? So what means for you, what means content that really connects?
What I have definitely seen, and I see this working so well now, is that storytelling. It's not necessarily about what you sell, it's about you that people buy into. There are hundreds of people that do what I do. There are thousands of people that do what I do and sell what I sell. But people don't buy because of the product I sell. It's because of who I am. And I'm always amazed of when I'm actually talking about like my dog, or like an experience I had at the dentist, or something that is completely non-work related. That starts the most conversations, that leads to people buying from me over any of me talking about the products that what I sell. That doesn't mean to say I don't talk about selling in my content, but it's how you do it. And actually, the more I've become myself, which sounds like really easy, right? It's straightforward. So many people find that really difficult to feel like they can be their complete selves online, because we are scared of being judged, mostly by our nearest and dearest, right? They are the ones that we feel like are going to judge us for being who we are online. I've got to that point where I don't really care anymore. So I am because I need to show up as I am for my clients. They need the help right now, because I'm seeing that struggle. I am seeing when people aren't getting it right. And I see where people are lacking their own confidence a bit. And I've been there. Like, I have been there so many times. When I had the cafe, I wouldn't even appear online. There is not one single picture of me for about 2 years on my phone. I've got 90,000 photos, like the majority of them aren't. And I had to have a word with myself when I started doing this business, and go, right, people need to see you because you need to lead from the front. If you want to be a leader, you need to do this and show what people can do. And they've helped me keep accountable. They've helped me become a little bit more myself. What I do now, I wouldn't have even done 4 months ago because I didn't believe. But it's that storytelling, it's that finding those mutual connections. I often talk about when I'm doing like sessions or masterclasses or anything like that about the small talk. We underestimate the power of small talk, right? Love it or hate it. I had a cafe. I got pretty good at it. It's not my favorite thing to do. I will say that. But those small talk conversations of like, how are you? What's going on? You know, how's your son? You know, oh, we knew all the dogs' names. If we knew the dogs' names, we didn't know the owners' names in the cafe. We were dog friendly. People loved it when we knew the dogs' names and gave them a treat. Um, like some dogs have very specific treat requirements, like cucumber. So we'd know all of these things. But it was those small touches that made people come back time and time again. It's those small little conversations where we got to know people, asked the questions, and you shared. Like the more I was honest and open about what was going on behind the scenes, the more they came in. Like it was that kind of connection. And that's what people really want. They want to see who you are. They want to see what drives you, the things that don't go right, the things that do go right, because they want that authenticity. Perfectly polished does not work anymore. Doesn't mean to say you can't have brilliant brand photography, because that is always important. Like your brand image, having that sorted is absolutely key to a business. But what they want to see from you is the truth. They want to see the reality, because that's believable much more over anything that's polished. So for me, that's about the connection. Like, and I've had to get comfortable with that. I'm not still not comfortable with it, but I've had to.
It's so very true. I agree with the same, because people connect with people, and there are so many people doing the same we do. It's the experience we have. Uh, um, Different people can have the same experience as us and do the same as us, but each of us will have a different kind of living it and expressing it, right? It's very, very important to share that with other people. I wanted just to ask you, for some that will see this and probably already heard about two terms and may feel they are the same. Can you explain what is the difference from copywriting and storytelling?
They can be the similar things. So storytelling is all about how you do it. Copywriting is like the main bulk of your copy. They kind of go hand in hand a little bit, but they can be in so many different formats. Copywriters, their job is amazing. Like I have got absolute respect for copywriters. I used to have copywriters in my teams. They are like wizards with words, and often video as well, because we don't underestimate the power of voice depending on how your audience learns and what information they process. So the copy that they write helps people connect from A to B. But what we need to do with storytelling is take them on that journey. Like stories are the bit that people remember. We don't necessarily, like if I do a masterclass, they probably won't remember half of the useful facts that I think are important, but they'll remember the random stories I tell them, like about like if I'm wearing, like today I'm wearing spicy earrings. That's the kind of thing they will more likely remember. That will be what sticks out in their mind because they can connect with it and it's relevant. And that's the key thing. So the stories have got to take people from A to B. And that's where copywriting can help with that. They can take it from A to B. And it is a skill. If like copywriting isn't something that you're natural at, there are so many people that can help with that. There are so many people that can do it, that can take your words and turn it into something that's compelling on a page. And that is what sometimes we need help with. Like I'm not the best copywriter in the world by any means, and like I say, I've worked with copywriters. They are brilliant at what they do, and also they write for different, let's talk about different formats, because you've got websites, you've got press articles, you've got social media, and there are so many different ways you can write for each of those audiences and each of those platforms that are slightly different, that gets the story told in the right way. So that's what copywriting is. It's all about how you kind of bring that story to life in the right platform, in the right format, so that it really connects with the audience as quickly as possible. That's what we're aiming for, is to make that connection.
I love that you brought that because it can make some people doubt which is what. And I was recalling what you said before about the small talk, about knowing what people like. For introverts who need to manage very much their energy, and small talk is something that we normally avoid to do. What is your best advice for us to have in mention to connect with people and still save the energy?
It's a really great question, and I totally get that because I'm an introvert and an extrovert, so I think they call it an omnivert. So there are times when like the small talk feels like I'm having to climb a mountain to do it. What I suggest, and this is again, if you are not comfortable yet feeling like you can show up without just talking about your business, because the business is a safety net behind us. I used to work behind brands. Like I could hide behind my brand. I created a different brand with the cafe. I could hide behind it. I named it after my grandmother, so it wasn't even after me. It was called Elsie Mays, so I didn't have to show up as myself because I could be the brand. When I had to come out as my own personal brand, I then had to show up, and that was really hard. But with small talk, this is how I always think. It's like thinking about a topic which is easy, low barrier entry. So for me, the weather, right? We could all talk about the weather. You put something like I'm sitting here, I've got my heated blanket on, I am really a granny, uh, but like people resonate with these kind of conversations. Everyone can have a thought on that. So if you are an introvert and you're not sure how to start those conversations, sometimes it's just sharing like what's going on. I use like a really good framework for kind of turning that like small talk into something that's a bit more storytelling as well. But I often do like polls, like on LinkedIn or on Instagram or on Facebook. I will sometimes use a poll as a good way to get small talk without actually having to do much with it. And then you can choose like to go and follow up with personal messages or something like that in a time that works for you. I think with anything like that where you're engaging with people, I time block that. I don't try and stay online all day because I don't have the energy, and I work out when is a good time to do that. But those small talk conversations can be really valuable because they are low impact, they are low energy. You're not having to really think too much about like coming up with some really in-depth professional answer to them. Like the best content that works for me on LinkedIn is nothing to do with business whatsoever. Like I will, what did I put the other day? It was about talking at the hairdresser. Like who I do not talk to my hairdresser. I'm in there for 4 hours. I've got a lot of hair, um, and I know her name is Sam. That is it. And I wanted to. The question was, do you talk in the hairdresser? And I was so surprised at how many people talk to their hairdresser. Like I don't. I literally do not have a single word. It's like, yeah, I'll get up and go to the sink. Yes, you can take my glasses off. That is it. Um, because I just can't be doing with small talk for 4 hours. It's exhausting. So I'm there with my laptop. I get some really good quality work done. But it was a really interesting poll because it understood a little bit the behaviors of my ideal clients, but it also opened up conversations. So it broke up that boring thing. So that's where polls are brilliant. Like they can start people getting conversations, but then you kind of take those moments to think, okay, right, I'm going to go for and answer some of these now. I can break it down as to when it works for you. You don't have to be on it all the time. It will kill you if you try and do that. It's too exhausting. Like take small bites of time to go and do those conversations, then put them to one side, have some quiet time to yourself and do it like that. That's how I do it anyway.
I love the time blocking also to really help to save our energy and also to remember to do things because many times if we don't put on a calendar or an agenda, we forget to do it. So I love that. And time blocking surely help us to be more focused on the task and yes to connect with people. This is a great one. And I love that you bring pools because people like to share their perspective, their opinion, right? So that's a really great way to start with small talk. About storytelling that you say, and I also believe that it's what brings people together. Do you feel that every piece of content needs to have storytelling or a story?
I think you can mix it up. I think there is an element, because if you try and tell stories every single day, and they can be really powerful, but from the reality of being a business owner, we don't have necessarily the brain space to do that every single day. I think you can, if you look at any of like my content, which you can like, I'm obviously, I do a lot of content because of the nature of what I do, but actually what I often do is create a weekly theme every single week that I work around. So I have one topic I talk about a week, and it might be like a carousel post on Instagram, it might be like a poll on LinkedIn, and then I might bring a personal storytelling thing into it. And it doesn't, like I say, it doesn't have to be every deep dark secret that you have. We don't have to, you get to choose what stories you tell, but sometimes it's relevant. Like I was saying, often when I talk about storytelling, I often call it story selling, because it is, that's what we do. People buy into that story. And I hear it so often when people actually open up and be a bit vulnerable. They get so much support and love for them that people just want to go, I want to work with you. It's quite powerful when you see that happen, and it's really amazing. But I often think, well, if you're thinking of creating a generic like post, like 5 top tips to get you motivated on a Monday, right? We all, don't know about you, I need motivating on a Monday. Instead of putting that out there, because people will scroll past that. People go through so much content every single day. We do not have time to look at 5 top tips that you probably already know the answer to. Instead, how I position that would be, okay, today I opened up my laptop, I stared at it for 20 minutes before I realized I wasn't actually getting anything done, because motivation's hard on a Monday. So I went for a quick walk, I got a coffee, I did 5 star jumps. I didn't, just to clarify. But that's my morning routine to get my brain going and to get me. And then I did one quick win job on my list. How do you get yourself going on a Monday? That is a much more engaging way of doing it. It doesn't take much pressure, but just giving that inside knowledge of your perspective, because actually you touched on a really important point. People love to share their perspectives. So the stories that you're telling, I would say they aren't about you. It's a way to get your audience to open up, because selfishly, we want to tell our own story. It's just an intrinsic thing we all have. Like, you hear someone talk, you want to tell your version of the story, because that's how we operate. It's the same with your content. So actually asking more questions than answering, maybe give them a little bit of food for thought so they've got something to work on. That's how you'll get the conversations going. And if you are introverted, remember that people want to talk about themselves more than they want to talk about you. So just ask questions, because they will give you the content.
Yes, I love to finish the content with questions, because it teaches people also to share their perspective and their experience, but also brings more and more connection. You talked about sharing the people's stories, right? And for introverts, many times the introverts I work with, they are afraid to share too much, or they think for them to show up and share their story, they need to share everything. What is your perspective about this? What is the suggestion you have for those who think they need to share everything every little bit?
Yeah, this is a really common one. And firstly, you get to choose what you share. You're the only one that can choose what people see. You know, people think they see a lot of me. They don't. They don't actually see a huge amount of what I share. I share a very small window into my world. Actually, sometimes even just bringing out that personality, because there are a lot of people, like you say, a lot of people are introverted and they connect with people that are also introverted. So we always need to kind of be that leader in that kind of perspective. But I often start, when you're thinking about storytelling and bringing out those personal stories, like, talk about something that feels like safe for you. Like, I talk about music a lot. I'm a musician. Like, I play in concerts. I was at a rehearsal late last night, um, which was actually, it started off pretty shoddy, but it was pretty good by the end of it. So I talk a lot about my music because it's something I can talk quite easily about and be really comfortable. One of the other subjects I don't talk so much about, but I need to, is the fact that I'm dyslexic, and I've hidden it. Like, I was late diagnosed dyslexic. I also got diagnosed with ADHD, which I really don't talk about because I haven't even told my family yet. I'm not comfortable to talk about that yet. Like, I've been with ADHD 360 at the big festoon last week in the UK, a massive event. And they were saying, you need to tell your family. I'm like, I'm not ready to do that yet. So I don't talk about that a lot because that's not comfy for me yet. I don't know how I feel about it yet. So I might mention it in passing in a safe space, but generally speaking, it's not something I'm going to get into. The dyslexia is the same because of what I do. I'm in marketing. I felt like I always had to hide the fact that I'm dyslexic because I felt like, particularly back in the day when we only had 140 characters in the world of Twitter and the platforms that I were on were like 150,000 followers. Unlike now, where probably they're a little bit more cautious of actually making sure things are signed off by the hierarchy at these organizations, I had free reign. They didn't, like, there was no barrier. Um, and I was so self-conscious I couldn't tell people that I was dyslexic because I was so afraid that I would make mistakes and I didn't want to use it as an excuse. Now I talk about it a bit more, not as much as I should, but because I kind of feel that there are people that get it. Like, it's important for my ideal clients because there are so many people that are dyslexic and it doesn't get talked about. And like I said, I was late diagnosed. I wasn't diagnosed until I was in university. Um, and I got support for it, but I don't, like I say, I don't talk about it, and I talk about not talking about it. So I think there are things that if you're not comfortable yet talking about these kind of things that are like I say, these are hard for me to talk about. Music is fine, it's safe. Like, I talk about my dog a lot. Like, Rubes is always on my channel. Her name is Ruby. Like, I can happily talk about my dog. I can happily talk about my cats. So find those things that you can talk about that feels comfortable to start with and build those confidence. Dogs are a brilliant one for connection. Like, pets are a brilliant one for connection because if you're a pet lover, you're probably going to connect with another pet lover, right? You've already got a mutual conversation. So even if it's like just going for a walk, like, take a picture of the dog, like walking, like, or a little video. You don't have to go on and start taking selfies and doing lives, you build up those, do small stuff. That's how people get to know you. Even just honestly, you do not want to see my desk right now. It's chaos, but people love the behind the scene. Honestly, it's a plank of wood. I'm not even joking. It's literally like a piece of splintering plywood, and it's got stuff all over it today, which is not the way I normally work. But even doing that, just taking a little bit of behind the scenes, that's not necessarily your face, but just showing a window into your world. That's connection. That's what people see. It's not about perfect polished stuff anymore. People do not want that. They want the real. That's why we love reality TV, right? Not because they're perfectly polished, because we want to see actually what really goes on behind the scenes. And we're good with that. That's why we keep going back and watching more, because we want to find out more about it. That's how I would start as an introvert, is just find something you are completely comfortable talking about, that you can talk to your family about, that you can share, like, small things, even if it's like, talking about your favorite chocolate bars. I mean, I can talk about my favorite chocolate bars all day, or my favorite loaf of bread, which is now sourdough. Again, this is where we start. And then when we get the confidence to come out a bit more, tell a little bit more. It's a practice. Like, I never walk out on stage having, occasionally I've had to walk out on stage having never played the music before. It's only happened a couple of times. Generally speaking, I've been practicing, I've been getting familiar with it, I've been getting used to it. It's the same with all of this. It doesn't just happen overnight. Little bits every single day help make that better for you and get that confidence up, because it's about confidence.
And you were talking about pets, and my kitten just came here meowing with her toy in her mouth. Yes, and I really love, because I always say that we don't need to share everything. Normally, what we see even from other people sharing, it's about 10-20% of everything, right? But what I always say as a personal brand mentor, focusing on essence aligned personal brands, is that what you share needs to be 100% true. You don't need to fake anything, and you need to have boundaries to what you are comfortable sharing. For instance, I don't share my son, my kid, and I have here a frame with several pictures of him. So every time I do something like I am doing now and sharing the wall, I take that off. this is a boundary I have. And yes, I needed to clean a little bit because it was a mess also. I
Oh,
understand you.
you're far
But
cleaner than me.
yes, but it's like that. It's not about faking it. It's about having boundaries of what you want to share. And there are some things that at this moment you are not willing or comfortable to share, like you said about the ADHD and the dyslexia. It's normal that we have things that maybe in the future they are prompt for us to share, but at the moment no. And people don't need to know everything. Of course, when we are able and comfortable sharing some things, we will find more people aligned with what we do, with what we are, right? It's
Totally.
kind of natural for human beings because they look for that connection, what we have in common, so people can feel with us. So if, even the plants, the cactus, right? There are so many cactus lovers and pet lovers. The children also are great to bring connection. But we don't need to share everything if we don't want. So I don't share my kids.
Yeah,
This is
absolutely.
something I don't share, and it's okay. I'm a mother, and I work with mothers, and I don't share my kids. So we need to have those boundaries and understand what we are comfortable sharing. I love it that you brought that. We are almost finishing, and I have a last question. But before we finish this, I want you to tell us where we can find you if someone wants to start working uh, with doing content that aligns, that connects with other people. How they can find you for you to help them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am on, all, as you can imagine, I'm on all the socials anyway. My main channels are actually Instagram and LinkedIn, and my handle is I am Naomi C Rose on both of those. So the C stands for Claire, that's my middle name, and my web address is the same, so you can find me there. Come and connect with me because I have lots of free things that can help you anyway. I've got like an AI content planner because yes, you can use AI without losing your voice. It is entirely possible. So I'm going to give you the tools to do that. It's totally free. Go and download that. You can find that through my Instas and my LinkedIn channels as well. And like just reach out. Like I am a complete open book. Like come and connect with me, share something, let me know how you're getting on with content because I know how overwhelming it is. It feels like this hungry monster that doesn't seem to ever fill. Um, we can have our fridge full of food and still it's hungry. So definitely come and chat with me. And yeah, I'd love to find out more about you, what you're up to. Let's just have a chit chat. Tell me about your pets.
Yes, I always say that conversations. It's not I always say, it's a saying from Portugal. Conversations are like cherries. We start eating and one after the other, and we could be here for hours and hours talking. And
Yeah.
yes, if this is something you are watching and you feel that Naomi will be a great help for you, please connect with her. I'm sure you will have plenty of insights and knowledge to share to the world, and Naomi will help you. So, my last question for you is, what is your main suggestion for people to start using their stories to connect with other people?
Just start small, like just take an everyday thing that you do, even if it's like the school run. Like so many people can relate to the school run, right? Because it's usually chaos. Like the morning routine is usually carnage. Like this morning my routine has been completely carnage, mostly because I was trying to find a birthday card for my mother-in-law whose birthday is tomorrow, and obviously my husband isn't that organized, so I was like looking through the cupboards, which is again, but just start with like really small everyday things, because you might think, oh, that sounds I hear this a lot. People go, my life's really boring. I'm like, people love boring. Like in the UK, there's this show called Gogglebox. We watch people watching TV. I mean, come on, if we can do that, then you can talk about your everyday stuff. So, even if like right now, the autumn colors are absolutely amazing here, like start with that kind of thing, like go back to the weather, go back to what's going on. Like, I often say, is it okay to light the fire and get into my pajamas at 2 p.m. on a Friday? And actually, most business owners haven't got out their pajamas. But again, they're the kind of things, start there. Start with those small things. What you will discover over time, the more you do that, the more empowered you'll become to share a little bit more. And I see this with my clients. I've seen this with myself, but with my clients as well, where one of my clients, she left corporate exactly 1 year ago, and she was so afraid to talk about that because she was scared of what her ex-colleagues would think. And what she's doing now is totally her calling, but she's also really afraid that people think she's not very experienced because she's gone in business a year. But she put it out there, she did it anyway, she got uncomfortable with it. The actual comments and the celebrations that people went with her was amazing. It was such an empowering post, and she was like, I wasn't expecting any of that. But actually, no one commented on the fact that she had only been doing it a year. People were saying, this is the right thing for you. I'm so glad you've done this. Like for her, it was just like, you are so good at this. It wasn't anything about all of her own insecurities. So start with those small things first. Talk about the cats, talk about the kid bringing you a toy. Like start there and just do a little bit more each time, because actually we know that when you show up as yourself and you feel comfortable with that, that's when people really see you and want to work with you more. It's not, like I say, it's not about what you sell. It's about the person you are that people connect with the most, and they become the loyal customers. They're the ones that come back time and time again and tell their friends about it, which is the marketing we all want.
Yes, it is. It's the small things that brings the link that magnetizes people, right? And many introvert women think they don't have that magnetic aura, but we all have, and many times it's on those small things. Yes, it is. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really love it, this conversation. Thank you so much. All the info about Naomi will be on the description of this video. So please do connect with her. Again, thank you so much for being here. Today we talked with Naomi about content that connects. And if you are willing and want to keep working on your content, be sure to watch the following video with Dana Johnson about using Pinterest as your evergreen resource for content. Also, watch here.